Agent Carter Season 2, Episode 5, The Atomic Job. Really, really love this episode. They had a lot of surprising moments from it. I think it was really cool that we got like this sort of ragtag team. We have three people, they really only added two people, but we have our three main characters. I guess there are three main characters now that I think about it. So we have, of course, Peggy, we have Jarvis, then we have Sousa, and then we have Rose from the front desk, who is super awesome in this episode. She was really funny. And then we have the scientist guy, who, of course, I don't remember his name, but it was just really fun watching them all go on this mission, and it's like all this random weird stuff is happening. They get Rose on the mission, and Sousa's like, I don't want to have to worry about it and stuff. And I love the conversation they had because Peggy's like, I'm seeing, Sousa, but I'm hearing Jack, and I thought that was actually pretty funny. But it was just fun watching them on this mission. Rose was just like destroying people. The scientist guy's like, I finally got to go out on the mission and all this stuff. And I think my favorite scene was when he was doing the wiring to try to open the door, and he's like, you know what? After this, you and I, and she just cut him off. Like, why don't you just go ahead and get the door open? I was like, that's really, really funny, because she was like, it's not going to go to that point. She's just, trying to give him a boost in confidence so that he can get things done. But I really enjoyed it. It was really funny. I actually love seeing all the gadgets, even though we only got to see a couple. I like the gadgets that they use. We got to see Peggy have a really funny scene with the one guy. I love that scene because she kept having to knock him out. I'm like, he's definitely gonna have brain damage. Like, she even buzzed him like at the end after she knocked him out, and he was already unconscious. And she just did it for like the longest time. She did it when he was already unconscious. So that was really funny. I actually really enjoyed that because it's like he was, he's doing his stupid old timey flirty thing, and then it's like, she's an agent, holy crap. So he goes in, wipes his memory, stops at the door, agent again, goes in, and I thought she was gone by the time he came back. But then it just kept going, and it was a really funny scene, and she just kept having to buzz him while checking him. And he's like, oh, hey, and she just has to keep zapping. I'm like, he's going to have brain damage for sure. But that was a really cool invention that I enjoyed. My favorite was actually the second invention. I guess there really were only two of them. Or no, there were three. They had the little thing basically where you could see where people were walking from like a couple meters away. So that was actually pretty cool. But my favorite has to be the electricity one because they throw this thing over. Of course, I thought it was like a bomb of some sort. And it actually just rotates and it like brings out all the electricity from the electric fence. And I thought that was the coolest thing. I was like, I've never seen something that does that before, like in anything. I'm sure it's happened before where people have, done it in fiction shows, but it was the first time I'd seen it, and even if it was only like the second time, it certainly hasn't been done so often that I'm used to seeing something like that. So I thought that was my favorite. It was my favorite invention that we got to see this time around, and I like that. I like getting to see all these really fancy gadgets because the SSR is the early version of Shield, and we know what Shield has. They have helicarriers and their helicarriers can become basically invisible, and they have all sorts of crazy tech. And I like getting to see where they started, and it's all these things where it's like, it might work. Never got to field test any of this stuff, so we get to see all these gadgets, really early on. That none of these, from what I can remember, we've even seen the updated versions of. So it's not like they showed us something and it's like, oh, that's the earlier version of this. Like the thing where you could see people walking is probably the early version of like a mini radar. That's about it. But it was really cool getting to see it, and I'd love to see a lot more of the gadget, showing up in each episode. Where it's like we have a crazy mission, we have to do some hardcore spy stuff. We need gadgets to go in. We can't just talk our way in. We have to use technology and see through walls basically and stuff like that. So I hope we do get a lot more of that. I think that would actually be very cool because it was certainly fun in this episode. Um, we got like the comedy slow motion hero walk and everything, which is a really awesome scene for me because the song they played, as soon as I heard it, I was like, all I can think of is Fallout because that song is played in the Fallout games. So as soon as that came on, I was like, all I could think of was Fallout. I was like, that's really awesome because no, that game is set during a very specific time. It's like the 50s, but post-apocalyptic for anyone who doesn't know that. So all the music is set from the 50s and stuff like that. So it was really cool to actually hear that song and something outside of Fallout because most games are or most shows aren't really set during, the 40s and 50s and stuff like that. So I actually really enjoyed that, mostly for the song. Like, the comedy of it was normal. I mean, even though it's a spoof, both are kind of cliches at this point. It's like, whether it's the serious walk, it's been done a million times, and the spoof walk has also been done a million times, but I do prefer the spoof walks because they are pretty funny. The guy tripping is kind of the normal thing, but my favorite part was actually when they end it, and it was like, "Where'd you park?" He was like, "Oh, I parked down the street. I'll be right back." And he had to, Jarvis had to actually take off. That was actually the funniest thing. I don't think I'd seen, excuse me. I don't think I'd seen that before. So that I thought was actually pretty funny. It's like, oh crap, I got, and he has to run, and they're just kind of stuck standing there, and that was it. It kind of goes off. So I actually enjoyed that. Of course, we have our main villain. Now we have Whitney, who is super awesome in this episode. I think she had super strength. We find out actually that she does have super strength, so that was pretty cool. She can take a hit, I would assume, because of the super strength thing. Like, Peggy punched her, and she was like, "Oh, I thought that would hurt more," and it was like nothing. I was like, "Oh, I didn't expect that one to happen." So that was pretty cool. Um, Wilkes is actually tangible for like 30 seconds or something like that, and then he vanishes at the end. So I don't know what to expect now, but he had a little bit of the zero matter, and it made him tangible when it shot through the glass and connected with him. So of course that kind of leads them, as well as Whitney, to the dead body, and unfortunately Whitney gets there first. And it makes me really curious because I still don't truly understand what her plan is. I know she's going to try to recreate the experiment, but it didn't make sense to me why she was going to recreate it, because all it did was make a rift that sucked everything in, and I'm just kind of confused. I'm like, I don't know what she plans to get from that, and maybe it's something with the zero matter because, like with Wilkes, he mentioned like, it's calling to me, and they didn't mention that before. Although Whitney hadn't really been like full on with the power, so they may have kind of gone past it. But excuse me, I'm wondering if Wilkes having that connection with that little bit of zero matter is what triggered, what happened to Whitney and her recognizing it, because beforehand it was kind of nothing. But it could also be the fact that she has more zero matter within her, because she's absorbing people, and she converts it into more within herself. And she kind of does the same thing in this episode, and she absorbs it from the girl, and she, all the veins and stuff kind of just absorb into Whitney, so she's even more powerful now. But I like seeing her as the villain. It was really cool. She, had the strength and stuff, and I'm sure at some point, before they officially defeat her, we'll get a scene where she gets shot in the back or something crazy, and it'll be like nothing, and she'll, pluck a bullet out or something crazy. So I think we're kind of, getting to that point, because she's already got like crazy strength. And of course, her husband now, he's super freaked out because she gets angry. It's just like, you're absorbed. So he's really freaked out, and now he's going to try to he's set by the end of the episode a meeting with the council, and I'm very curious where that's going to go, because of course if they try to go against her, and I don't know, this might happen in the next episode where we get this scene where she just like plucks a bullet out, but if they do, try to take her down, she's just gonna run up and like punch someone through the heart or some crazy crap with super strength, and just start absorbing everybody. So I'm curious what's gonna happen there. And then we of course have the introduction of this like crazy gangster guy who is insanely violent. Like, apparently, he saw someone. I don't know if he looked at the guy. Maybe I missed it, but I could have sworn he called that guy out of nowhere. Like, he saw him out of the corner of his eye looking at Whitney or something. Because I didn't see him like turn and look at the guy and notice that he was even looking at Whitney. So it's like, oh, she's attractive and stuff, huh? And then he just flips out and he just destroys this guy. And he's like, that's yelling like that's not how you treat a lady. And then it's just like, sorry you had to see that. He was being very disrespectful, but I love those types of crazy villains because that was insane. So personally, I actually thought that was an awesome introduction for that character. So I'm looking forward to seeing where they take that guy, and I don't know what he's gonna do, because of course Whitney was the one that wanted to go to him because she clearly used to date him, and now that they don't have that deal anymore, she'll probably be fine, super strength and all, but her husband will probably get destroyed, and then within the next couple of episodes, depending on what happens with the council, and if he tells them like, hey, we tried to do this but it failed, and now I owe this guy, and we don't have anything, so he's going to destroy us. So the council will probably end up protecting him, and then there'll be some crazy extra little battles going on. But I definitely want to see where they take that guy's character, because it seems like he could be a good sub villain for the rest of the season, depending on how long he survives. I'm sure he and Whitney will end up being okay, and she might have to have a little show of force against him as well, and that'll kind of make him fall in line. But I think he'd be a good sub villain just because seemingly he's still quite obsessed with her. Because he made it seem like, he made the little joke like he was still mad at the guy because Whitney ended up with him. And then he's like, I'm just kidding, it was like 10 years ago or whatever. And then he goes nuts and he like destroys this guy, which may or may not have been directed towards somebody else sitting at the table. So we'll have to see how all that stuff plays out. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that guy, because I kind of like him. I thought he was a really crazy character, obviously. So looking forward to that. I think the actor is a good actor, even though every time I see him, I only think of the show Children's Hospital. And I don't know, that's a show on Adult Swim. But every time I see that guy, that's all I think about. And that's such a ridiculous show, it's hard for me to take him seriously sometimes. But I kind of got past that, once they got into, like, how serious it was. And then, of course, he snapped on the guy. And it was like, not seeing Children's Hospital anymore. He just punched a guy in front of a bunch of people. I thought he was at his own place at first as well, and then they showed the reactions of the other people, and I was like, I think he's just at a random restaurant. I thought he was at, like, his own little club or something. And I was like, oh, no, he's at, like, just a normal place, because people were freaking out, like, holy crap. I thought he was at, like, his own little personal club, and he's just like, no, in public, I'm just going to destroy one of my henchmen, get other henchmen and drag them away, and I'm going to slice up my steak or whatever he was eating. So definitely looking forward to that guy. Sousa in this episode had an interesting moment as well, because he gets to propose to his now fiance, which is probably going to be his ex-fiance in the next episode. But he has his proposal to her. Everything goes fine, and then we have Peggy getting impaled with the rod, which I thought was going to be a really crazy scene, because I'm like, if they do it where she gets impaled a bunch, this show's about to take off in a really crazy direction. But she only got, hit through the stomach. And, he's like rubbing her shoulder and stuff, and his fiance sees it, and she instantly comes at him. And I really enjoyed that. I was glad that she didn't wait, and it wasn't like, oh, I saw you do this like 3 days ago or something. It was, and that's one of the benefits to this show, having such a short amount of episodes, is that they kind of just do it. It's like, no, if you're freaking out, you wouldn't bother waiting. Someone just proposed to you, and then it's like, oh, this is the fresh start he was talking about. He's running away, from being with Peggy because of something. Like, they had, like, a relationship, seemingly. From what I remember at the end of the first season, everything was perfectly fine between them, because she didn't turn him down. If I remember right, it was something like, once everything was over, then they could, go out or something like that. But he took off, and that was it. And he did the craziest thing, and this is, like, the main reason I think that is going to be officially over by the next episode. When she says, like, you're in love with Peggy, he doesn't even do the fake denial thing, like, no, that's not true. They did a 10-second pause, and he's just like, and he looks down. I was like, well, this is done. Like, that didn't even last as long as I thought it was going to last, which was already short. And it was like, oh, you're in love with Peggy, not even fake denial. So that's done. I don't know. I doubt she'll say anything to Peggy, because, of course, despite being upset by the fact that, her fiance, or, supposed to be husband, is clearly in love with someone else, she'll probably still respect his wishes of running away for whatever reason and not tell Peggy. But I was very surprised it ended like that. I was like, he didn't even try to deny it. It was just like, and that was it. So that's going to be done by the next episode, I would have to assume, or they're really going to try to work through it, and he's going to be in the craziest form of denial, because if you start off, you get confronted and you don't say no, and then you try to backtrack and be like, no, let's do this, like, I love you, I want to marry you, that's going to mess you up. So we'll see where things go. Peggy will probably be down for the count in the next episode, because she just got impaled, so maybe this episode, possibly the one after as well, or the next episode and the one after, she probably won't really be able to go out. So we might actually have Howard come back in and help out a little bit for some of the missions. and it'll be like Jarvis and Sousa, and possibly Rose, depending on how they decide to do that. We'll get to see them go on some missions together, which I think would be fun. I'd like to see Sousa and Jarvis as just a duo, because I think that would actually be pretty entertaining. Because it would be such a switch for both of them, because Sousa and Jarvis only go on missions when it's Sousa, Jarvis, and Peggy, if, not other people like this episode. So it just being the two of them would be very different, because of course Sousa has the crutch. Jarvis isn't exactly like the spy person. He joins Peggy, but he's not really the spy. Like, that's just not how it is. So it would be an interesting shift if it's just the two of them, trying to continue out the case in the next episode. And then, of course, Wilkes disappearing, like I mentioned before. I'm very curious why he disappeared. And they had like a weird flash where it seemed like he was, it was almost like an electricity type of thing in like cartoons where you can sort of see the skeleton. That's what it looked like to me, at least. And then he just vanishes seemingly for no good reason. So I'm looking forward to getting an answer on that for sure, because things seemed fine. They were kind of taking a big step, and it's probably the fact that he took in some of the zero matter, and it could be, the fact that he's drawn to the zero matter just like Whitney is, considering she has all the zero matter within her, he might be getting drawn to her, and it's, messing up even with that little bit of spray or whatever is going on with that. So it might just be forcing him to pretty much vanish, because it's, I would assume he's in some way still, part zero matter, and she has like all of it. She's like 98%. He's like the last 2%, and it might be some weird sort of, like magnetism type of deal where he's forcibly being drawn into her, but he's on like, obviously a totally different wavelength, so it's really weird and not just like poof, he's been absorbed. So I'm really looking forward to getting an answer on that. We might not get the answer exactly in the next episode, if he even shows up, because he vanished and there's no good reason why. So who knows what really happened there, but I'm looking forward to an answer. Like I said, certainly enjoyed this episode. Definitely want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I definitely want to know what you guys think happened with Wilkes at the end of this episode, because aside from the sort of magnetism type of thing where Whitney might be somehow, unconsciously doing this and just like absorbing him automatically, I can't really think of a reason why he would disappear, at least not the way that he did, because it wasn't like, oh, he faded out because the spray that Howard made wore off. He was like flashing, and it was almost like he was like shifting through dimensions a little bit, like some really weird stuff that we hadn't seen before, and then he just vanishes. So I think we might see him somewhere else, but I can't really think of a reason outside of Whitney has all of this zero matter and he pretty much has nothing. Because it's not the experiments, because they didn't get the nuke, so it's not that that's kind of pulling him in. So it's got to be something else that's drawing him, I would think. But obviously that's speculation, but like I said, I definitely want to know your speculations on what's, why that happened to him, and just what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.